I got mine for $1.25. You know, you can't go wrong there. And this was 9 by 12. Alright, so there's our little Santa. There's the bottom of his mustache. You know, start putting in some skin color and start getting his face figured out and start some shading around his face and get that going. And that's what I basically like to do to start getting his facial features figured out. Okay. So we're going to use some light flesh, and I also have some begonia, and these are my go-to colors when I want to try and get a skin color. Okay. And then I also play with a little bit of camel because I find that sometimes the flesh is too pink. It just depends on how pink you want it to be. You can tone it down a little bit with the camel. And then we have some burnt umber. So we'll just start with those for now. And a little bit of floating medium. So you can use like a 10 or a 12, whatever you're comfortable with. Oh boy, crash, crash. My wheel keeps kicking it. Alright. All stable now. Alright, so we're gonna first wet our brush. And sometimes I just go right into the floating medium. Yes, they say maybe it's a little bit of water, but floating medium I find is good too. And you're gonna put it in there anyways because you want a little bit. You don't want it too wet. Okay. So I usually just start off with my flesh color. Okay. And what we're going to do is just get that all in there, everywhere. Not too much floating medium because then it'll be too translucent. But we're going to layer a little bit more color. So he's got a very simple little ear compared to the advanced Santa, just a little nibby there sticking out. And so just go ahead and start putting all that skin color in. It's no sense painting his eye, really, because you're going to paint it anyways, and where you want it white, it'll be just harder to cover. So I always say just, try to, when you're doing it this way, it's very easy for you to see where you can do it. Stay away from. So I try not to do anything twice if I don't have to. So I'm going to go right over the nose. You can still see, because I've really pressed hard on that carbon paper. I'm trying to hopefully get that pen to work. But just press lightly, okay? You don't need to press it that hard. Because then it'll be just harder for you to cover them. So I am going to put some shading in those spots too. And do a little bit of his mouth just to start getting a base coat. Because there we're going to, not up here, you don't really have to do, but his lips and his tongue, you can start doing a little bit of a base coat on there. Alright, so now we can start picking up a little bit of our orangey color. It's like a terracotta type orange. And so we only want just a very little bit. Get that up a little higher so we getting it there. Okay, so it's just a very small little bit of a shading. And you want to go up in these little jiggy spots here too. So if you do go cover them with white, then they'll have some natural color there. So again, just a little bit upside down shading. And shade behind the eyebrows. And under the hair. So you don't have to worry if you get any on the areas you're going to put white on, because pouncing and stuff like that, it'll cover. And so you just want to shadow around everything. On the sides. And his nose. And his cheeks. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of floating medium to make it keep working for you. You don't need always to add color. And add shading all around the eyes. Ears. It's already looking pretty good. So it just depends on your color preference. And so sometimes this is where I'll add a little bit of that camel to kind of soften things too. Shadow over that one. Just all around his eyebrows, all around his eyes. Don't have to get fussy yet with the deeper shades. Add a little bit more. Play around with the two different colors back and forth. It just gives you some interesting areas. Shade a bit around his nose. And what I like to do is do it on both sides. So you're going to shade his nose, but then you're going to shade around his nose. As well, just very subtle. So that way it'll pop his nose out. Pink flesh is a little bit lighter color. So it's a lot more shaded on the one side. Very subtle. Making his cheeks pretty rosy there with the softer color. And we can always add a little bit of pink into this to make it more rosy. Nice big full cheeks. A shade under his nose. So once we get all the shading done, we're going to go another shade darker. So we're going to add some burnt auburn in there, but I still want that warmth in there. Okay. And if you want a little bit brighter, add a little bit more of a flesh tone. Okay. So now this one's going to be very, very thin line of brown. You really don't want that much. So move down into your puddle so that you're just picking up a very little bit. And you can see better if I have it lower, but I keep hitting it, so you'll have to excuse me if I hit my... Okay, so just move down, pick up some floating medium to water it down a little bit. Okay, so that way you can get a nice line. Okay. And sometimes I'll just pick up just a tiny little bit. Okay. So you just want that ever so soft line. Okay. And then you can go around everything again, just a titch more. And don't forget about these little zigzags. It's looking a little too brown. You can add just a little bit more warmth. Sorry, folks. I'll get a hang of all my new equipment and surroundings here. Okay, so now that we got our major shading going on, now we just want to tweak it a little bit. Okay, you could have added a little bit more yellow to it, I guess, if you really want to copy this kind of color. If you want more natural skin tones, you know, you just play with it until you're happy with it. But I'm going to add just a tiny bit of yellow. And I'm going to add my magenta. Because we're going to mix and make a little bit more of a peachier, rosy cheeks. And then a little bit of white. I'm going to lighten up that white or yellow. I'm always tongue-tied. I get so excited. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white to lighten it up. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that camel to tone it back down again. It's just a little too bright. Okay, so you're going to wipe your brush on your towel to get rid of most of it. Okay, and what you could do just to brighten it up a little bit is just do like a wash kind of look, so you're not really covering your color, just kind of giving it a little bit of a brighter color. Listen, it still has a bit of that undertone of the skin color, just a little bit more yellow, a bit brighter. Don't want it too yellow. A little bit. Oh, we have company. Yes, Molly, it's your sucky time. So just keep playing with the yellow and the light flush until you get the color you're looking for. This one's a little trickier, so it's a little lighter, brighter. So just a light wash. It starts to get too dry. Dampen your brush and then just pat it on the towel, just so it's not too wet, just enough to dampen it. So there, I'm a little happier with that color now. And I'm not even going to rinse my brush. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of the Begonia orange. Start blending that in there. Pick up some more flesh. Then I'm going to pick up my magenta. And you can see that's given, it's pretty bright there on that lighting. And this is going to give us our shadow, or color for our rosy cheeks. Just a very small amount of floating medium. And this guy is really rosy. And he's goes right underneath. Floating medium. We want this a little bit translucent. And we want the cover nice. So it's got to be that happy medium. Get rid of all those little white dots if we don't have enough floating medium. Okay, so you can always add a little bit more. Let it dry, see how you like it. You can always add more, but you can't take it back off. Okay. So don't let your gradient get too low on you. Okay. Move down on your plate. Okay. So now we're just going to add a little bit more of that rosy color. So this side of his cheek. Introduce just a tiny bit of warmth. So just a tiny bit of burnt umber in there again, okay, in that mix, so that you're getting 3 colors. You don't want it too dark, but you want it dark enough. I'm going to put some more shading. I'm trying not to play too much because with my advanced Santa, I definitely do a lot of playing. I'm trying to make this one a little simpler, but I get carried away with my shading. I can play all day. Use some of our yellow. Just introduce it back in there if you feel like it's getting too washy. End up a little bit with some white. It's just plain, right? I'm going to try and get around those eyes a little bit tighter. A little darker color. Just the tiniest little drop is all you need. Okay, I think we're ready for a little bit of background color. And I decided that we're going to go with our greens. And mostly it's going to be like a citrus green. And then I'm going to use a tiny little bit of sap green. And I also have a pretty cool color. It's a satin. It's called Peridot. So you can see there's a little bit of a shiny shimmer in there. And then also, I thought I would play with a little bit of color shift. Okay, so give it some pop. And so we'll put that over here beside her. You can see it's quite bright. Okay, so I just thought I would play a little bit with both of those and give you guys a chance to see what they're like as well. Get us some dimension happening. Okay. So I'm starting off with a dry brush. And I'm going to start with picking up my citrus green and just a tiny little bit of the sap. And the sap is a little bit thicker, so I'm just adding a little tiny bit of floating medium to that one. So mostly it's going to be this citrus green. Okay. And I like to put dark sometimes in the corners. This is just going to be a slip slap type design again. So it's very rustic looking. Okay, so just get that sap green in there. And just a little hint of that dark just around the edges. And we're going to add some more shading in there too, because we have to bump you guys up a little bit, right? You've already done wildflowers maybe, you've done some all the choruses, you've done all the paint parties so far, so I know a lot of you girls are ready for a little bit more challenge. So this Santa is going to be the medium kind of challenge, you know? The face and the eyes is always tricky, especially if you've never played with doing facial features before. And we can do even more quicker eyes and stuff like that, but I do want to bump you up with eyes a little bit. Okay, and just in case these canvases are sitting on a little easel or something, I'm going to just pop some color down the edges of them. Just nice thing about these, they're very thin, so it doesn't take much to pop some color there. So every once in a while we can go and pick up some dark, and it's starting to dry out, and just pick up a tiny little bit of floating medium. So we are going to put a little bit more dark in there. So this has got a little bit bigger space, so we can maybe add a little bit more dark in certain spots, or maybe just even on one side make it more darker, and then the other side a little bit more lighter. Just a wash. I want to make these holly leaves darker green, a lot of dark green, so I don't want to make my background too dark, so they'll stand out. There's that flip flop kind of thing. Pick up a little bit more brighter. Work it in there. It's going to dry, and you'll be able to paint right over that. You can always add in a little bit more shading after, but I always find that if you can get it in before, right? So a lot of times you're going to see more shading underneath the leaf than you will on top, right? So you can just tuck a little tiny bit of color underneath there. Not too much, just soften it out a little bit. And just enough to say you're putting a little tiny bit of a shadow in there. A little staggered here. Just use your finger to thin that out. And then you can just kind of wiggle it. So it's just scattered. Okay, this is all going to be white, so having the dark a little bit behind there is going to be good. And now, because we're going to be doing a lot of white around here, we can introduce a little bit more dark. And just for a little bit at a time. Flip, flop, flop, flop. Just kind of whisk some of the green in there, just in case you get a little bit of it showing through after you do his beard. And that mark is getting a darker color over it because he's just not covering very easy. So go with it, right? So you can see how I'm playing with my floating medium back and forth, picking up just a little bit of color. Not too thick. That's why it dries fast. I can take more time doing all the shading and all that, and also some things I like to get in there quick, and then some things I like to play and play and play and play. And so just kind of loose. So now we can just add a little bit more shading and add some more translucent color. And this is going to be white, so this can handle being a little bit dark all around it. Okay, so with this shimmer, you're going to really actually hit it very lightly because you still want to see a little bit of flat color here and there. So if you notice it's a little bit too shiny, just go back over it with a little bit of your flat colors. Yeah, that's pretty good though, I like that. So now just hit it here and there. Just try to make sure that you're hitting it all around your edges too a little bit, because then you're going to have like a real dry area where your shading is. And I always suggest to hit it with some varnish too, because that really helps pop the colors together. And that's pretty good. But I still want more, I still want more. Okay, so now we're just going to wipe out our brush and pick up some of that color shift. Okay. And again, just here and there. Just see if it picks up a little differently. A little brighter. Very similar, but it's how it hits the light too. And the color shift is definitely a little brighter green, more like your lime green. So wherever I didn't hit it with the other, I'm going to hit it with the color shift. So you should still see your shadowing work in the process here. And just pick it up and get the light hitting it so that you can kind of see if you got any real dry spots. So you can see I didn't use very much at all. Just to brighten things up a little bit. Okay. All right. And now we're ready for some red for our Santa's hats. So I'm going to use an apple red. And there we go, apple red. And I'm going to use a little bit of berry wine. Just a little bit. That's all we need. Okay, for your hat, you could use a little bigger brush, get it done, right? So we're just going to side load our red and start filling in the middle. Get that color in there. Okay, so I'm keeping my one side of my brush up and high so that I can kind of keep it clean, because I want that shadow color in there. Okay. So just kind of doing it, staying away from the line right now, just getting the color in there. Just a quick way of getting that in there. Remember, when you lay your color on flat, it'll lay down. If you are up and down, you're going to get streaky marks. Okay, so nice and flat. What is that? Must be just the marks from my carbon. Okay, so alright, so I still got one side that's fairly clean here. And I'm going to try and blend that in just a little bit. And add a little tiny bit of floating medium. Okay, so now I'm going to, with my burgundy or berry wine. There's even a cherry red, like a cherry color that you can get too. It's really cool. Okay, so you're just going to follow that all around so that you're adding your highlights. And you can give yourself a little bit of a hump here for your hair. You expect them to be in the hats here and there. And all the way up. And just blend it in. Okay, so he's got like two different areas with some shadowing in his hat. Define things a little bit. So you want to keep that a little bit light in there, so just a little faint one in there. And that causes like a little bit of an S. And it just fades all the way up. And then this one here goes up as well. So flip your brush around. Just remember which way you're going in your plate. Right into our jaggedy areas here. I hope you like the new way I'm doing the projects now. It's a new videoing and some areas that I can fast forward. I can get through those areas so you get the gist of it. Okay, so there's one more little crease in the hat and it just kind of goes up like that. Okay, so I put my hand this way so that I'm following this line and just kind of give it another little, right, so it's pretty subtle. And then there could be a little bit more darker color through here, deeper red. Okay, so that's it for his hat. Now again, you can pounce your white on. Okay, so again, I'm just going to use a big 12 brush here for now. because I just want to neaten up this little bit of a line here and get some paint on here. Okay, and you can just zigzag down, zigzag up, and just neaten up any area that you want to have a nice clean look. So you can hardly see that coverage, but it's in there. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to pick up a little bit, a tiny bit of black. This is more of a gray look, so we're just going to put a tiniest amount. I put way too much black on there, and find a place to load that. Really push on it hard if you leave a tiny little spot like I do right now. Try to get everything all on one plate tonight. Okay, so you can do it. You just have less room to do your blending. Okay, so it's got a couple layers of fuzziness going on. And I'm just going to use my brush to do that wiggle again, but this time with a little bit of dark white. And just to add a little bit of color there. And then we're going to come down and do the same thing. Try to follow it. Tiny bit of black. And floating medium. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at their placement here of their hat to remind myself. And I can always just kind of ignore this area because I'm going to put hair there. And this is how I think that it could be done. And then put a little bit of shadow behind his eyes neatly, and then very subtle down the side here. And then we have over here, just to add a little bit of the okay. And just wipe off. Scrubbies work good too. Just wipe off any color that you got on the skin away, and you won't have to repaint it. Okay. So there's also another little layer in there. This is just to put in a little extra fuzz, I guess. So we can just tilt your brush up a little bit so that way it's only really touching half the brush. And then we have a little tiny bit of shading off the side here too. Then we can start putting in a tiny bit of gray underneath his mustache. And then all the way underneath his mouth. And then his mustache is gonna come up around here. And so now we want to pick up a lot more light. Okay. So now we're just going to use our 3/4 brush to get the color down. Okay, so using your shadows where you can take advantage of them. So you want your darkness to be around in the back. And then over here you do want it a little bit darker. And feather that right out. Okay, and use your white side only. Okay, before we get too far ahead with our hat, there was one little area there that I forgot to put in some skin color there. I guess I could do that really quickly here, just so that it's in there. Shadow. And a tiny little bit of brown. With a tiny bit of pink. And a little bit tiny more brown. So when you forget little things like this, then you gotta kind of remember what you did to layer it to get that color. Now you see, this is going to be very subtle. You won't be able to see it too much. Have that little tiny bit of yellow in there. Warm things up again. A little bit of a wash of white. So now we got to be a little bit patient too and let this dry. And touch it up again a little bit when it's dry because it's a small area. And sometimes we just don't get anywhere. So there's lots of light going on. It's a dirtier brush. A little bit of warmth into the dark eye. Just a little bit of brightness there. brown is starting to dry. And it's definitely going to be darker in here too. It's got hair underneath. Just keep playing with it until you get it looking similar. Don't touch it. Sometimes when you touch it, it's not a good thing. It lifts that paint right up again. Especially when you're trying to brush an area. Okay, now I found my scissors. I want to talk to you about how to make hair and beards and mustaches and eyebrows and even fur, down to animal fur. Okay, I like to use a variety of different things I've collected over the years, and being a nail artist, I've acquired even these little tiny ones here that have smaller little fans. And depending on the company, I bought a big kit of nail art, about 20 different brushes one time years ago, and it came with 2 different varieties. And one is really, really soft. So the white ones are really, really soft compared to the Teflon orange ones. Okay? And then with the Donna Dewberry little mini brush kit, it comes with a lot of little tiny brushes, so that if you're doing jewelry or any nail art, definitely, you know, it comes with a tiny little fan brush. So it's a nice little set to have if you do want to start doing some tiny work. And why I like having it around too is because sometimes I have to utilize it in some of my projects as well. So if you're doing the eyebrows, you know, it might be a little easier to do it with a tinier one. So maybe you have found one through the years and you forgot about it. Dig it out because you're going to need it. And then in the Donna Dewberry kits, I have 2 different ones. Again, one's a little bit bigger than the other. One is from her Pro set, and one is from her regular set. Okay, so this one's a lot denser and thicker. Okay, so if you really want to put on a lot of paint, the thicker and denser the brush or bristles, the more paint you're going to be able to pick up, or more water it'll hold. Right, to really slide those strokes. So when you're doing palm trees and stuff like that, these are great brushes to use, especially if you're doing big projects. Right, you need a bigger fan brush. There's also a feather brush. Okay, this was again in her Pro set. That's where I got mine, and I will get some of these separately. You know, so if you just want that brush, I'll get it for you. And it's just really wispy at the end. We call that a feather brush. Okay. So option C. Again, you can always use a pointed brush. Okay, another brush from her Pro set, but they also sell the completer set, which has the pointed brushes as well, which is like a huge detailer. Okay, so again, you can do like little wisps with that too, and do all his little, you know, all the waves and stuff like that with one of these. You can double load one of these as well. So there's a couple different ways we can do his fur. And again, sometimes we start laying out color and then we go back and we pop in little details here and there. So again, it's nice to have a variety of brushes to get a couple different densities so that you're really getting a nice unique look with the way the curls go. Okay, so then I guess option D or E or wherever we left off. This is an old flat brush. It's been in the water too much, and it's gone. The chisel's gone on it. Actually, I don't even think this is a Donna Dewberry brush, but I went in my pile of brushes and I sometimes use these brushes for glitter, so then that way I don't care if there's glitter in them. right? So, because I can't get a nice chisel with these, so, you know, I'll use them for other purposes. I never throw a brush out until it's like totally gone. I use it for varnish or something and I don't want to clean it out and then it's hard as a rock. That's the only way my brushes go in the garbage. But definitely, you know, an old brush is really handy to do too. The only thing is really thick at the end. Okay, so this is why I have my scissors out. You're gonna learn to be hairdressers for your brush. Okay, so hold it towards you like this and start doing little chops. And if you have really wispy haircuts, you might even have seen your hairdresser do this to your hair. Okay, so you're just gonna keep chomping and chomping and chomping, and a little bit on an angle, so you're getting almost like little V's cut into it. I don't know how sharp your scissors are. Okay, these are my craft scissors, so I don't know if I want to get my hairdressing scissors out. Okay, so if you have a little bit sharper scissors, I just want to show you that you can make your own feather brush. Okay, and just keep chomping it. Thin it right out. If you if you happen to have a pair of thinning shears, you know, I'm tempted to go get mine right now. But just take your time, cut off that corner a little bit so it's a little bit softer on those corners. Okay? So if we look at our one that we paid good money for, okay, let's see if I can get you a little closer. Okay, so we'll do a little comparison here with making this is definitely a lot denser and thicker. So you see it on the side profile, still a lot fatter. So if you want to thin it down more, you can always take your scissors and just kind of gently go under that first layer, right? And maybe we have to do like little cuts at a time, right? And then just go over a little bit at a time and thin it out right at the base as short as you can get it. I might go get my little sharper scissors that I have for cutting other things and see if I can get a little bit closer to the barrel. Oops, I'm so sorry. Off the camera again. Okay, so get so involved in what I'm doing, I kind of forgot that I got you up nice and close. So I'll show you on this side what you didn't see on the other side. Okay, so I'm just going in very slowly, trying to take away that first layer, okay, a little at a time, all the way across the back, both sides. So this is an old 12, I think. Okay, so now we've got it a lot thinner than it was before, and you can just play with it. I would wet it down and get some paint out and see what it's doing for you before you decide to cut more off. Okay, so this one is a lot thicker than Donna Dewberry brushes. Like I said, I can barely see through the writing. I can tell that it's something I probably picked up years ago at Michael's. Unfortunately, in Canada, you know, I wish I was so close to some good resources in the States. Okay, so as I did this on a paper towel, so I could just fold that up and try and keep it all contained and put it in the garbage. Okay, so now I can see that I want to go up a little higher with my scissors, that would be better. Sharper areas that are not used as much. Okay, so that's looking pretty wispy. And if anything's too crazy on the side, you can always trim them down because you don't want stray hairs to be sticking out on the side when you can control those guys. Okay, so you can always trim them down a little bit if there's lots sticking out the side. I want this a little bit wispy so you can see that I'm not chomping always in different areas. I'm trying to concentrate on the same area so I can really thin out like every millimeter of this brush. So you can see in the middle it's still I'm trying to work that same area so I can get those little V's almost in there. Yeah, that's starting to look a little better. You can see that, I think. Okay. Just in the middle. So take your time, try to do it even. There we go. I've got a little bit more jaggedy things going on there. Okay. It's okay if one side's a little bit more wispier than the other, because then, like you've seen before with the way I brush, sometimes I only use one part of my brush. I don't use the whole brush flat. Or, you know, I can tip and use just half a brush, just using the corner. Okay, so there you go. You've made yourself your own little feather brush. Okay, so I'm not sure what you have, but hopefully, you know, I do prefer the ones that you buy. Again, there's nothing like one of these, I'm sure. And the length is there too. You can see that you'll get a longer wisp with the longer brush, right? So this one's still a little short. So you don't want to shorten your brush when you're cutting it, okay, folks? Try to keep your length original. You're just really thinning it out, okay? You're not shortening it, okay? You want that length there so you can get that wispiness when you're making your strokes. Follow through with some little really free ends. But this will work too, okay? And sometimes it's nice to have a stubbier one for different purposes than this too, so it works to your advantages to have that little stumpy, like it'll be a nice pouncer too. You can use it still as a pouncer. And so some little advanced tricks for you guys that you thought that I showed you all of them. Well, guess what? There's always something up my sleeve. Okay, so again, for you guys that are on Patreon, you're getting this free. But yeah, it's available for everybody soon on my website. Okay, so then you just fold that away, keeps all those hairs contained. And then I can bring my project back on here to work on. Okay, so we can add a little bit of paint. What I want to do is add some white. My full bottle. Okay, we're going to need quite a bit of that. And we're going to need a little bit of black. Now, if you have gray, you can use that too, and I have gray in there. Greenscape, that's more greeny. But, you know, you can just make your own grays, right? I like having different dimensions of grays going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is wet my brush. And I also have some floating medium in here too, so you can always add a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is show you a little experiment with our homemade brush. Brush is all over there. My page I had from when we were doing deer ears, Rudolph's ears, Rudette. Okay, so you can see if I was even doing a palm tree. Okay, I'm getting really nice wisps. Okay, so I just water it down and then just keep picking up little bits of paint just on the tips to get these little streaky marks. Okay. And if you want them to go further, you just might have to add a little bit more floating medium so that they'll, you know, flow. Okay. So you can see this is great practice to on the gray paper. Okay. So this is what we're going to do, is try to gray down our background a little bit so that these white wisps can come out. So at the top of his, you know, and take your time, his mustache, practice on paper. Okay. And so you're ready. A little bit more floating medium. So this is all we're going to do is play with our whisper. Okay, yeah, it works pretty good. I'm loving it. So again, if you're going to use your fan brushes, so you can add a little bit, tiny bit of dark. Okay. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of that white over, so then that way when I dip with the black there, I'm not dirtying my whole white puddle. And then I'm going to start doing some double bloating with my fan brush. Okay. It's a little bit dirty, and that's okay if it's an off-white, because you can always go over it again when it dries, which I prefer to do. Even with the dogs, I had to do like 4 layers or more to get that look. Okay, so the nice thing about double loading your brush, you're going to get that depth, and then you go over it a little bit, and you're going to get that two-toneness. It's not watery enough, and you're not going to be able to stretch it. And just kind of keep playing with doing little circles, you know, little C strokes. And then as you get more comfortable, more like an S formation. Inside each other. Remember, your dark is usually on top, but then again, I said you can put a little bit of white highlight over that again after when it starts to dry. Okay, so this is the effect when you have a little bit wider surface to work with the fan brushes. So when you're doing the mustache, you know, sometimes it's nice to have that smaller brush, you know, to get in there. Control it a little bit tighter when you have a little bit smaller one. Again, just use play. Okay. Get those little curls. And then the original. Okay, so it's a little bit smaller again. You can get those eyebrows. Okay. And then we're going to start with the dark at the bottom and just flick, 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 flick all the way across. And then the other one. And practice both directions, and whatever one you're having a hard time with, make sure you do more of. Okay, I'm running out of paper. Make sure you have enough floating medium in there. Let's try one down here. Okay, make sure you're comfortable. Flick, 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 flick. Okay, you're going to try and make sure you move your brush away where you're getting a little bit more coverage. Okay, so it looks a little darker, maybe you can see that better. And then follow that around. Okay, if it's too dark, it's okay, let it dry, because then you get that depth in there. When you go over it again very lightly, just picking up just mostly white, it gives you your depth that you're looking for. Just watch your direction when you're moving around. So you're slowly moving up, up, and to 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Now you're moving over to 10 o'clock, and then over to 9 o'clock. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and even eyelashes tend to be like that too. You know, they start off, you know, really up, maybe even a little bit over at 1 o'clock, and then over, and then slowly work your way across. Okay, so I want to make more cutesy eyes and give them eyelashes, then just try to make them really small. So when you're practicing, try, everything big, and then always try to water it down, okay? And then just try to go really, really small. Okay, take your time. And practice on paper before you go onto your canvas, because black is really hard to erase if you don't like it. Okay, so some eyelashes, some eyebrows, some, you know, so maybe you can see this better for color just because of how I'm doing the curls. Okay, so really wispy. Make them a little bit wider when you need them. Okay, go in the same direction. Make them a little bit wider in the same. And then come up a little higher, and get those curls in there. That's weird. And then you can move down and make some really long areas. And then over to each side, they're going to be shorter, little wispiers, okay? And then the way beards are too, the way hair grows, okay? Because I'm a hairdresser, has some experience with the way hair is. A lot of times you'll see the underlayer. This is the length of it. And then you're going to see the other ones on top of it. So it's going to layer on top, and then we're going to get closer and closer to his mouth by the time we're done. And those ones can be just, here's his mouth right here, right? And then we're going to just wisp some here and there, okay? And then we're going to fix his mustache on top of it. Okay? So the mustache will be a little bit of a slower part for you here. Okay? So if you can get the illusion of what I was doing here while I was playing on paper. And yeah, just loosen up and just have fun with it. Just go crazy and see what you come up with, and then, oh, I like that devil. Oh, okay, and then we can make one that way. That's almost like scroll work in a way. So just play, have fun. Okay, so I hope you like my little brushes um, hack of making a new brush. That'll be hack number 3 added to the list, I think. Just alrighty. So, anyways, we will get back to some serious painting now. Okay, we're gonna start. Well, we're letting that dry a little bit. We're gonna start at the bottom, work our way up. Okay. So we've dirtied our white, so it's like a gray kind of dirty white, right? And now we're going to double load our fan brush. Floating medium. You definitely need more white than dark. Okay, so now you can add a little bit of white right in the middle of your brush and the ends, and that'll help lighten up that black. And then also adding some floating medium to the black side will make it more muted black. Okay, so you really don't need a lot of colors. I have some few colors new that I like to play and try with, but at the end of the day, I use the basics a lot, and I love to play and make new colors. Okay, so we're going to start at the bottom. Okay, trying to pay attention to our other guy. Okay, so he's got some wispies that come down around here. Okay. And you can make it your own too, Now when we use the fan brush, we can get a little bit more wispy look. Come down a little bit, like nice long, easy strokes. And we can turn this one into this way. And start cleaning around in the bottom area. It's easier to layer on top. Play around like that, and then flip your brush over and just skimp over with your lighter color. Okay, so we're gonna do all the dark first. Okay, get that going. And just to get that wispiness, and tail your fan brush off so that you get that nice point with the white at the bottom. And then we can change our direction a little bit. Trying to get our streakiness going. Remember which side is up. And don't hit your green. Okay, so what we're going to do is grab a clean brush, wipe that green right out of there. That's what happens when you got too many colors on the go. Okay, so just wipe that out. And rinse my brush a little bit. Get that green out of there before I make a bigger mess. I love when I screw up a little bit because then it helps you guys learn too. Okay, so let's just move that green right out of the way. I love getting my fingers right in the paint. Alright, so there we go. Nice and clean again. Follow with me. Okay, so put some dark in there that way too. Put some Okay, so now we are ready to keep adding a little bit more color here. So just need to let it dry. And kind of blend it in. And it doesn't have to be totally perfect because we can always disguise it with some hair. Okay, so we're going to get our fan brush out again. Oh, yes, sorry. Before we do that, what I want to do is catch up on our little pom-pom. Okay, so we're going to do the same treatment all the way around here in a little circle, just jaggedy, jaggedy, jaggedy. Okay, how big do we want to make this guy? A little bit bigger, okay? Nice big pom-pom. Okay, so get our base coat in there, let that dry a little bit. Alright, brighten that up in the middle. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect because you want it to have some texture. Okay, a little bit of white. Brighter. Okay, so something easy like that. Okay, then when we go and double load our fan brush again, and we're going to need more floating medium again. Okay, so now we're just going to play back and forth with our dark. We get a little bit fuzzy. We can put the dark in there first. And just kind of wisp, 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 wisp. And I'm going to put a couple wisps in here too, just in case. And then just kind of drag that out. From the shading area. And then we're going to do our second little layer here. And I'm going to bring that over just a little bit over here too. And then when we do the bottom part of the hat, we got to go down. So I'm just getting that in there. Alright, what do you think so far, guys? Pretty wispy. Again, I'm trying to make this easy, but I just can't help myself because, I just gotta keep playing with all these little wisps. Okay, so this is definitely still supposed to be easier than the other Santa. Okay, it's just playing with hair is a lot of fun, so, I have to show you this stuff. Okay, that's what makes it pop out and stand out a little nicer. Okay, so now we're going to do some holly berries. Oh, then I went and put this backwards here. We're just going to be very careful now not to touch our other piles. So we have one that's going to be out this way. We can cover a little bit of our more of a point. I'm going to follow it this way, out, do 2 or 3 little bumpies. Okay, make it look a little different. Out. Okay, and then we can make the other one. A little bit more down. Out, out, out. Okay. I don't worry about coverage sometimes, I just get the shape going. And then I can go over it again. It's covered pretty good. I'm having fun here. Bring that light green out just a little bit more. Green through there. let that dry a little bit there, and now I can put another little coat in there just to darken things up a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. I mostly want the burnt umber. It's a little softer, but that tiny little bit of black is just enough to kind of shade underneath his lip. So just a little bit of shading under there, and then just a tiny bit at the bottom. So it still leaves it fairly red looking there. And then I'm going to pop in, I'm guessing this is a tooth that's sticking out here. Okay. Kind of looks funny now that I'm examining it. Okay. So I just want to get that red out of there now. And now I'm going to do the same thing again with my tiny little 6. And this time I just want to pick up just a side load. Okay. So it's a little bit trickier to do with a tiny little brush. Okay. So we're just going to add a little bit more shading underneath his corner of his mouth here. Just wash that away. Okay, so we got lots of highlights and dimension going on. It's looking pretty good. So I don't want to go too much here more. But you can just pop in a bit just wherever you think it needs any shading. Make things pop out a little bit more. But I'm liking the way my little guy's going. Okay, so you can always shade a little bit of underneath his hat a bit more. Okay. Just use your fingers to kind of rinse that away. And again, behind his eyebrows, you can want them to stand out a little bit more. Sometimes if we darken them a little bit behind it. And they just used the liner brush and did like little strokes on their details. Okay, so you can always pop a few of those in there. Okay. And now I want to pick up a little bit of white to start doing my eyes. Okay, so I'm just going to cover that pencil right there. And he's only really showing the whites of his eyes on the outside here. And then what his eyes are brown in this guy's. So we can start coloring that in a little bit too. It's going to stay mostly dark along the top of his eye. A little bit of coloring medium. And you can see that's a little more translucent color down at the bottom there. And keeps it a little bit lighter. Okay. Could use a little bit of yellow in there too to break things up. Just a little bit. Okay. And then we go over it again with the brown, just makes it a little bit brighter. Okay, so it's very, very subtle, lighter brown. With that little bit of undertone. Alrighty. That's supposed to be my easy Santa. Well, not easy. Like I said, I wanted to challenge you guys a little bit, give you some different options, and give you different ways of doing things. Alright, so this is one of the Santas. Like I said, my cartoon Santa. Alright, and if you're interested in challenge yourself a little bit more, I've got my other Santa here. I'm calling my vintage Santa. Okay, so I did a lot more detail in his eyes and going for a little bit more natural look with this. Okay. So you can see the difference. Their roof's very nice. Both a lot of fun to do. But I just wanted to give you as much as I could different with two different Santas. Okay, so once you've mastered this Santa, I'm sure you'll be able to do the vintage Santa, no problem. Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and painting with me. I'd love to see your work. I hope you'll share it on our group. And we'll see you again at the next paint project. Thanks so much. Happy painting!